Joining us now in Hong Kong, Hong Hao, Chief Economist at Grow Investment Group. In Jakarta, Ibrahim Rahman, lecturer of the School of Strategic and Global Studies with University of Indonesia. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Right after China's two sessions, the annual political season, we see the Chinese economy once again has won a tremendous amount of positive response from investors all over the world. Very different from the earlier images at the end of last year. Mr. Hong, tell us more about what actually has changed.
Yeah, well, I think the sentiment has changed probably a bit before the twin sessions. Firstly, in January, just before the Chinese New Year, we have the DeepSeek moment, right, which is a breakthrough of how you can use low-cost equipment and GPUs, less GPUs, to develop AI to a better result. And I think that's a shocking to the global community. In terms of the AI development. And since then, as you can see, the Chinese stocks, especially the Chinese tech stocks, has been rallying, to reflect this sort of the newfound confidence in the Chinese tech, and also globally, you're seeing many of the mature, the more sort of renowned AI names in the U.S. starting to plunge. Right? So, I think the global investment community immediately recognize, this is the Chinese breakthrough that can change the landscape of the AI development globally. During the transition, there are some encouraging signs in terms of policy support for the economy, especially this year. We are laying a relatively low inflation target, at 2%, which is lowest in over a decade. At the same time, we are increasing the fiscal deficit slightly to 4%. And also, there are indications that if 4% is not enough, then special treasury bonds would be issued, in the later half of the year to support the economic growth. I think people are taking heart, in the technology breakthrough, and also taking heart in renewed support of the policy towards the Chinese economy. And also recently, there's a top-level meeting with the private entrepreneurs, just trying to reassure them the economic support, for them. So I think everyone is excited. I think it's being shown in the recent stock rally in Hong Kong and also in Asia as well. And I think globally, because the risk of sentiment is developing in the U.S. market, and we're actually seeing global funds finding shelter in this part of the world, in the Chinese shares and also in Hong Kong, China shares.
We see the major points coming out of the answer from Mr. Hong. One is the technology breakthrough in terms of AI. The other is more policy positive responses coming from the Chinese government. From your perspective, what actually has changed that we are seeing somewhat a landscape change of attitude toward the potential of China's economy?
I think it is very interesting to see the transition of Indonesia-China relationship during the last couple of years, the last couple of decades. Our President Joko Widodo, before has very tight relationship with China government in terms of downstreaming of mining product and developing a lot of infrastructure development. And the sentiment is not always positive at the time, because we know that China always bring as well a lot of labor inside of the country, where it will be also, competing with the local labor market. But then now, 2025, with the absurd policy of United States and instability in European countries, I think China is the only hope and expectation for us in Southeast Asia to go further in terms of achieving better economic growth in 2025, due to all uncertainties and destabilized policy which has been introduced by particularly President Trump of United States. So I think the sentiment has been twisting toward China in very positive tone, that China development, as Dr. Hao mentioned, already being supported by largely more flexible fiscal policy. And if we read as well, China has also introduced more expansionary monetary policy by reducing interest rates, so that domestic consumer spending will increase. And for Indonesia as well, we have very strong 101 relationship. But 1% growth in China will lead to 0.2, 0.4% growth in Indonesia. So that any better improvement in China economy will lead to better economic growth as well. I'm sure not only for Indonesia, but also for other countries in Southeast Asia.
DeepSeek, the breakthrough of it is not only meaning China is having a foot in the room, but also the open source nature of DeepSeek has made sure that every player now can have their own corner in terms of artificial intelligence development, including the global south. So how much opportunity do you see, sir, that is presenting to both your country and many of China's neighbors in Southeast Asia? And what does that mean for the vitality of interactions?
For many, many years, the relationship between Southeast Asia and China is more into one directional relationship where we are providing predominantly raw materials for manufacturing, and then China will manufacture that raw materials and come back to us as final product. So by nature, it will be, imbalanced term of trade between two countries, where I think better technology will, potentially help us to leverage our ability to produce our product into more final product.
Yeah.
In one of study that we conduct here, that the adoption of robotic among manufacturing in Indonesia will be able to leverage skill level for employment, as well to increase the type of product to be able to increase our quality of product, as well as the level of product development. So not only raw materials but also final product. So AI is certainly be playing important role, and it is very important for us to prepare and in the process of adopting more technology. However, some countries are still in the process of adopting regulation on how to use it in more wise way and more productive way.
On the other hand, it's not just the AI, but also a whole areas, different areas have been mapped out in the China's national plan, according to the government work report. Mr. Hong, biomanufacturing, quantum technology, embodied AI, and also 6G, and the list goes on. How will these areas likely to be the darlings of investors? But at the same time, to make sure it is going to be a healthy cycle, not overheating cycle, not overinvestment cycle, not, shall I say, overcapacity cycle eventually.
Yeah, I think technology is one of the frequently used terms during the communique from the twin sessions. Everybody is seeing, the importance of technology, and also, finding a new way to drive economic growth for the Chinese economy. So I think the old model is being phased out. For example, the property market, right? It's showing signs of stabilization, but then at the same time, there's more emphasis, more discussion, regarding how best to develop technology and how best to use this kind of technological development to drive the Chinese economy forward. So I think in terms of investment, as you can see, right? So more and more investments are being directed to high-end manufacturing. So, for example, robot, EVs, amongst the other things, and also private enterprises are using their own money to develop AI. For example, the DeepSeek AI technology is being developed by the Chinese hedge fund, which is using its own money to facilitate the development of the AI technology. So I think many things are happening. I think right now we are in a transition phase. We're transitioning from a old economic model that is using real estate and infrastructure investments to drive economic growth, towards a high-end, more scientific and more technology-driven growth, which is being led by high-end manufacturing and also AI developments. Already, I think the market is starting to reflect this kind of initial success. For example, some of the Chinese internet platform companies such as Alibaba and Tencent, they have been investing in their own money into AI development for the past couple of years already.
Right.
And many of them, right, especially Alibaba and Tencent, they're actually making breakthroughs. For example, Alibaba is releasing some brand new AI, open source AI models,
Large language
with the
models.
functionality, rivals, the ChatGPT and all that. So I think, it's looking up. I think, China is transforming, and hopefully, in the years to come, we'll see more and more new technology development.
Before we wrap up today's discussion, I really wondered, what are some of the benchmarks are you watching very closely to see how Chinese economy will be going for the rest of the first half of this year? And what kind of indicator do you think international investors are also looking at this moment?
Yeah, well, I think the stock market is the most unbiased indicator and also a forward-looking indicator for the Chinese economy. Already, the Hong Kong market and also the Asian market is looking up, right? So I think it's also the most public information that people can find. So, the stellar rally today in the Hong Kong market and also in the mainland Asia, some of the sectors in the mainland Asian market is already catching a lot of attentions of the international investment community. So I think the momentum is building, right? So the policy has been announced, and also, technology is still progressing really fast as we speak. So, many of the companies are releasing their own AI models as we speak. So I think, the momentum is on this side, on this side of the world. I wouldn't be surprised to see, China continue to become, one of the best performing major markets globally this year.
If you look at the Bloomberg data, I'm just checking this day that China needs at least 200 billion new investment to achieve the target of GDP in 2025. And I think with achieving 200 billion new investment in 2025, the spillover effect for other countries in ASEAN, in Southeast Asia, for instance, will be greater, especially in terms of a possibility of increasing collaborations in mining, downstreaming, and other infrastructure development, 5G development in Indonesia and other ASEAN countries. I think there are many room for improvement, many room for further connection between China and ASEAN countries in terms of technology adoptions, student exchange and skill upgrades for human capacity that we can learn from China as well. So I think, as Dr. Hong mentioned, there are more promise than worries in 2025. And I think China will lead many other countries to rebound after a hard year in 2024.